Oh. Hi friends, my name is Haley Brown. I'm an artist. I sometimes say I'm striving to be a queer disabled fairy godmother. And today I would love to tell you about my new project, a little story called The Ground Fairy. The Ground Fairy is a 32-page graphic short story and letter to my kid self. I grew up disabled. I have a congenital disability called osteogenesis imperfecta, which meant that I was different from everyone around me, and I didn't really grow up with the kind of guidance and mentorship of having a disabled adult around me who could really understand my experiences. So the idea for this story and for telling a story or writing a letter in metaphor came to me when I was actually working as a children's entertainer, and I had already been working with children for 15 years at that point. I was in my mid-20s, and I had gotten really used to kids asking me about my body because I'm visibly disabled. Whether I'm wheeling or walking, I do look like something different is going on. And so I got used to and somewhat comfortable with fielding these questions, but they never came up when I was working as a fairy. And I realized one day between gigs, oh, actually, I could give my character a disability. Like, I could allow her to talk about this topic that, I've gotten kind of good at talking about with kids over the years. And who knows how the kids might relate to that. Some of them might even find it really comforting or really relatable to hear. So the most common question that kids asked me when I was performing as a fairy is, can you fly? Followed by, can you fly right now? And I always used to answer yes, until one day I decided to answer differently. It was very important to me to create a story in which the disabled protagonist doesn't save the day and doesn't have to teach anything or prove anything to the non-disabled characters. I just wanted the focus to be on the disabled character and to let her experience the whole spectrum of feelings that come with this very isolating, at times very isolating experience. I also noticed that a lot of children's lit that's about disability is actually kind of, at least when I was a kid and when I was first starting to research this project 7.5 years ago, it's kind of geared towards non-disabled children. Even if it's about disability, it's sort of about teaching non-disabled children how to interact with disability. And so I wanted to address disabled kids specifically. That's why it's written in the second person in the style of a letter. I hope that it really resonates with kids and adults who are navigating disability, but I also think it might resonate with anybody who feels different for any reason. Someday I imagine that it could be a full color 32-page children's book, but this version I'm doing it indie style, I'm doing it ground fairy style with the skills I have now and the resources I have available to me. So it's going to be risograph printed, which I love. I think that it gives it this really like vintage, beautiful kind of like rough handmade quality and texture. And this version will be monochrome, so it's going to be printed in this beautiful hunter green. I'm so eager and so curious to see, like, I've shared it with some children, but I'm really curious for it to meet a slightly wider audience and to see how you folks react to it, to see how children react to it, and to share this little world and this whole kind of concept and framework with people who might also find it useful. It's not bad to be a ground fairy. It's different, it's complicated. There's certain things that are definitely more difficult, but it's also beautiful, and that feels really important. It's a beautiful, rich, brilliant way to live, and that feels important to communicate to children who don't choose to be disabled. We just are. That feels really important to communicate, like, hey, this way of being, yes, it is more complicated sometimes, and it does come with certain pain points, but it also isn't bad, and you aren't alone in it. Most importantly, you aren't alone in it.